Paul, the MMA Shark, coming at you ahead of UFC Orlando. I am pumped for this card, a little bit more pumped for this card in the aspect that the MMA Sharks are invading the Amway Center this Saturday night in Orlando. We've got our own little section. A lot of people that have been cashing tickets with me all year. We got together. We're flying from all over the country. We're going to be in Orlando for this card. We're going to be right there by the cage for this card. A 15-fight card. First 15-fight card in a decade for the UFC. It is only Tuesday of fight week right now. Obviously, that can change. But if all holds, this card's insane. Top to bottom, it's one of the better fight nights of the year. And I don't have time to do a 45-minute preview video, but we're going to do a little quick preview as I am going out to this card. It's been a busy week. Got to get these right. You know, if you followed me in November, my God, did we kill it. Nearly a 70-unit month. It was only fitting that it ended with the win of a plus 560, Larissa Pachenko, to beat Kayla Harrison. Totally smoked every card in November that we touched. Right down to the Nemkov Bellator win, the UFC Vegas 65 Fight Night last weekend, when I was pitching a shutout into the co-main event, hitting plus 1,000 props, hitting plus 700 straight fighters, hitting plus 560 straight fighters. So, one thing November was, two things November were. One, very, very profitable, and two, not juicy. You know, in a matter of 7 days, I hit a plus 1,000, a plus 700, and a plus 560. That's got me feeling really good headed into December. So, UFC Fight Night Orlando this Saturday night, December 3rd at the Amway, 15-fight card. It gets kicked off with Yasmin Jauregui versus Estela Nunes. Yasmin is the minus 305 fighter, and she is not as good as a fighter. She is the lesser caliber fighter of the two. Estela Nunes coming back at plus 255 for a very good reason. That reason being, if Estela Nunes cannot put out Yasmin early in that fight, she will lose that fight. She just does not have the cardio. She doesn't have the gas tank. She comes out like a bat shot out of a cannon and is definitely dangerous early in the fight. But unfortunately, you've got to fight 3 rounds, and Yasmin definitely has the wrestling and the striking ability to survive early in that fight. And I'm not sure Estela can really do any damage after round 1.5, end of round 2 into round 3. So, no chance I'm laying minus 305 on Yasmin to start that card. Way too many better fights on this card. Way much more value on this card. So I don't have a whole lot to say there. You know, if Estela can catch her clean early, she's got a real shot at winning that fight. Fight 2, we have Francis Marshall versus Marcelo Rojo. Francis Marshall is coming in 6-0. He did win his fight on Dana White's Contender Series. I think he got signed in the slightest of margins. He had a decision win over Connor Matthews. Previously took on fair competition on on Ring of Combat in the local Northeast regional scene. Taking on Marcelo Rojo, who is an absolute dog. You know, my only worry for Rojo in this fight is, will he be able to fend off the wrestling attacks of Francis Marshall? Francis Marshall does not mess around. He's got very good wrestling. He's very strong. He's got a good gas tank. And, I mean, Rojo's coming off two finished losses. He was submitted by Kyler Phillips, and he was knocked out by Charles Jourdain. So, not exactly a great UFC run for Rojo. I think UFC is trying to feed Marshall a win here, but it's not going to come easy. Marshall has fought nowhere near the caliber of Rojo. Fight 3, we have Natan Levy versus Genaro Valdez. This fight's going to be a banger. I almost want to call it a don't blink fight. Natan Levy's got excellent wrestling, and he's got big shots to set up that wrestling. He doesn't just come in and look for the shot. He's a karate-style fighter that leads to takedowns, and he's been winning a lot of decision matches. You know, 5 of his last 6 fights have gone to a decision, but you have the complete opposite in Genaro Valdez. You know, Genaro Valdez is 0-1 in the UFC. He was dropped 6 times in one round from the steamroller, Matt Fervola, who we just saw look absolutely incredible 2 weeks ago. But prior to that, all of his wins came by knockout to get into the UFC. Could he catch Natan Levy in this fight? Or can Levy catch him? We saw the chin not hold up every time he was getting touched by Frivola. Genaro Valdez was getting dropped. I will give a free play on this fight. There's no line for this free play yet, but this fight is not going the distance. I see a finish coming in the Levy-Valdez fight 3 of the night. I do not see it going to the distance, whether Levy gets a submission or Valdez gets a KO or Valdez gets tired and clipped and Levy knocks him out. I don't see judges need it in this fight. Early in the card, fight 3, but free play will be that lightweight bout between Levy and Valdez to not go the distance. We move on to fight 4. This is an extremely, extremely close fight, and really a fight that can borderline headline a fight night. We've seen lesser female fights headline, Araujo versus Grasso. Give me Cortez versus Ibas. I think that's a better fight than a fight that just headlined. Tracy Cortez can make for a boring fight, but she can be a absolutely dominating fighter. Just beat Melissa Gatto, split decision win over Justine Kish. But the most important win on her resume is she beat Erin Blanchfield. She's the only one to ever beat Erin Blanchfield, and her wrestling against Erin Blanchfield was actually controlling. We saw what Erin Blanchfield just did to Molly McCann. It makes you think, is Tracy Cortez better than Erin Blanchfield? And, that fight was a little bit earlier in their careers. It was in 2019, just over 2 years ago on Invicta. And, both proved that they belonged in the UFC after that. And Cortez has just taken a route where she hasn't lost in the UFC yet. She is fighting her toughest test so far in Amanda Ribas. I'm very high on Amanda Ribas. I like her a lot. I just don't know what she can do to beat Tracy Cortez in this fight, but part of me thinks she's going to find a way to do it. You look at who Amanda Ribas has lost to. She got knocked out by Marina Rodriguez. She lost a split decision to Caitlin Chukagian, and she got knocked out by Polyana Vena. I said that like a weirdo. She's got some pretty good wins in the UFC. She dismantled Paige Van Zant. She beat Mackenzie Dern. She beat Emily Whitmore. This is a super, super close fight. Not one I'm ready to make a player prediction on right now. I do know that Ribas opened the minus 140 favorite. Right now it's down to a pick'em. Both women are minus 110 on this fight. Definitely a close fight on paper. I see rounds happening in this fight. This isn't your typical first round knockout female fight, and not that they are typical, but some of them are set up that way, and I see there being rounds in this fight. Maybe we have a dicey split decision. Definitely a really tough fight, close to call. If you want the official play, right there, www.themmashark.com. And what I offer is a personalized service. I'm texting you my plays directly. I'm interacting with you and answering questions with you during the card. 469 units year to date. I don't think there's another capper in another sport that can prove that they're up that much this year. And my average play is 2 units. So imagine if I was doing 30, 40 unit plays. I'd be up 3,000 units this year and probably living in a beach house in Hawaii somewhere. So we play it smart on the system. I don't like to get the subscribers into dogfights. There are nights where we have to go down to go up. So you got to keep that in the back of your mind. It is gambling at the end of the day. So fight 5, we have the damage, Darren Elkins, who I think is pretty much about at the end of his run. He's 38 years old, and he has been damaged lately. He did just have a pretty good win against Tristan Conley. Prior to that, he was knocked out by Cub Swanson, and that's about the only person to do that versus Cub Swanson. He hasn't really been finishing people lately, but he was able to put away Elkins. Before that, he had a nice little run going. He knocked off Derek Minner and Eduardo Gagliardi. He's just getting old, and Jonathan Pearce is in the peak of his career right now. He's an absolute stud. JSP, he's got very, very good grappling, a very heavy top game. But Darren Elkins always has that one-punch knockout power. You've seen him able to survive. He bleeds like a Diaz. Interesting fight. The lines are very, very wide on this one right now. Darren Elkins is plus 360 Jonathan Pearce is minus 450. Can't really do much with that. Next fight, there's not really a whole lot you can do with either, and it all depends what Mark Ducote shows up. Will it be the striker or the wrestler? In my personal opinion, it's going to be the wrestler. Michael Johnson is 20-18. He's definitely better than his record, but he's been getting taken down like crazy in his last several UFC fights. He's getting up in age. He's 36 years old. Clay Guida took him down 6 times. Stevie Ray took him down. Jamie Malarkey was able to take him down. Mark Ducote in his recent fights has started to wrestle. And, that's how he beat Damir Hadzovic and Borshev. He was submitted by Rafael Alves and lost a decision to Fiziev. So, Mark Ducote, in my mind, likely gets the fight won. At minus 300, there's nothing there for me to do but get the prop right. So, we'll have something to do on that. Next fight, another fighter getting up in age, but he doesn't show it, and that is the Carpenter, Clay Guida. He is 40 years old, and he's fighting just as good as he was right now in the peak of his career. I still think he won the Marco Madsen fight. Claudio Pulis got him in a leg bar. He's been doing a lot of grappling tournaments. He actually just defeated Alex Caceres in a pro grappling match. If you know Alex Caceres, he's young, he's fast, he's quick, he's got good jiu-jitsu. Clay Guida is not done yet in his career. He's taken on Hot Sauce Scott Holtzman. Holtzman's getting old. He's 39 years old, coming off 2 losses, but those losses were to very, very high-level competition in Beneil Dariush and Matthias Gamrot. Prior to that, he defeated Jim Miller. Definitely not an easy task for everyone. You put Jim Miller next to Clay Guida, likely on the same level. So, Holtzman, Guida, it's a close fight. Right now, Clay Guida is plus 130. Scott Holtzman is minus 150. I think these old guys are going to move in this fight. That movement of Clay Guida is definitely always exciting, but Scott Holtzman, doesn't exactly have the chin to hold up, but Clay Guida, not much of a striker. Guida just bounces around and doesn't tire out. I don't know on this one yet. I'm leaning dog, I'll be honest. I'm leaning Clay Guida gets the win. But again, it's Tuesday on fight week, so I have no official lean on that. And obviously, come Saturday, my premium subscribers will have plays on all of these fights. So, fight 7, Angela Hill. Angela Hill versus Emily Ducote. I sleep on Angela Hill a lot. She's actually a lot better than her record of 14-12. But Emily Ducote is a different breed. She's a younger fighter. She's 28 years old. She's coming in 12-6, American top team standout. She just beat Jessica Penne, and, now she's an underdog versus Angela Hill. It's kind of crazy to think that. She beat Alicia Zappatelli, who is one of the top-ranked fighters, or if not the top-ranked fighter in Invicta right now. She knocked out Danielle Taylor. Jessica Penne in her UFC debut, that was an awesome win for Emily Ducote, but every time Angela Hill's an underdog in these situations, she seems to get the wins, and she beat Lupe Godinez last fight. I remember I was in Orlando for that fight, and I truly believe that Lupe won that fight, but the judges always seem to love the style of Angela Hill. She's bringing in a lot more cage experience. She fought Amanda Lemos to a split decision. She's not easy to put away. This is a fight that I probably go very, very small on when I send my play, because a split decision is probably likely in this fight. Unless Ducote just completely out-wrestles her, outshines her. But even then, Angela Hill always finds a way up, and, she's the Terminator. She's the female version of a Terminator in the UFC. So I don't recommend betting a lot on the Hill versus Ducote fight. I will follow my own advice when I release that play to my subscribers on Saturday. Feature prelim is one of the fights that I'm really looking most forward to on this card. Nico Price taking on Phil Rowe. 2 absolute studs lately. Both have been active. Both have been smashing people. Nico Price is such an aggressive fighter. Phil Rowe fighting at home in Orlando. Phil is my boy. I will not take Phil Rowe because he's my boy. I'm not ready to make a prediction in this. I will say that Nico Price has several advantages in this fight, as does Phil Rowe. The aggression advantage goes to Nico Price. The wrestling advantage goes to Nico Price. The length goes to Phil Rowe. He's got the reach advantage of John Jones. And when he's been hitting fighters in the UFC, he's been dropping them and knocking them out cold. You saw what he did to Orion Costco. You saw what he did to Jason Witt. In both of those TKO wins, he started very slow. It's likely Nico Price wins the first round, and then Pandemonium can set fire in this fight. It's going to be one of my bigger plays of the fight and of the night. www.themmashark.com. Nobody does it like I do. Plus 469 units year to date. If you've been watching, you just see that unit total climbing. Real subscribers. I have over 500 people getting my plays every week, and no one is leaving. They're sticking with me for a reason. The system has been that strong. Now we go on to the main card. A 6-fight main card starting at 10 p.m. My God, it's going to be a late night. My wife is going to kill me when I roll back to our house in Kissimmee at about 3 in the morning. But, we'll just go to Disney the next day and make up for it. Make sure we do something more expensive in Disney with all the tickets we're going to cash on this card. So we had a late replacement in this fight. We start off the main card, and the UFC switched up the order of the main card for whatever reason too. Initially, Jack Hermansson versus Roman Dolidze was going to start the main card, but now Eric Anders and Kyle Daukaus is starting off the main card. Eric Anders, always in for a boring fight. I have never been high on Eric Anders. I love his story. I love the Nick Saban story. Good football player for Alabama. He hasn't gotten a finish in the UFC since 2019. He's under 500 in the UFC. He's 3-7 in the UFC. I will say his last fight versus Jung Young Park, he lost a split decision. I think he was on the wrong side of that split decision. He's getting up in age right now. That body's been through a lot of football. It's been through a lot of fighting and wrestling. He's 35 years old. He's taking on Kyle Daukaus out of Philadelphia, a fighter I'm very familiar with. Him and his brother Chris, both in the UFC. Brother Chris is a heavyweight. Kyle's look good. I mean, if you look back and watch Kyle's fight versus Kevin Holland when the accidental headbutt happened, he was beating the hell out of him. Yes, he got knocked out by Roman Dolidze. Prior to that, he finished Jamie Pickett. He was smoking Kevin Holland. En route to a first-round knockout over Kevin Holland when the accidental headbutt happened. That saved Kevin Holland's job at that time, I believe. Free play, Kyle Daukaus to get the win. Right now, he's minus 195. Eric Anders does everything so slow. And, if he's slow getting up from a takedown or shooting I could see Eric Anders going to shoot a takedown and Daukaus doing something as simple as sprawling to stuff it and catching him in a ninja choke and just putting him out. I absolutely am high on this pick. I love Kyle Daukaus to get the win in this fight. A little bit of juice, though, Sometimes we hit the plus 1,000. Sometimes we hit the minus 195s. But definitely going to be a great fight for Kyle Daukaus. I just don't think Anders will have anything for him other than the experience factor. So we move on to the main card. Derek Brunson, unfortunately, out with an injury. Within 5 minutes, the UFC gets Roman Dolidze to fill in this fight. And from a fan's point of view, I think this is a more exciting fight. Everyone's going to be waiting for that Roman Dolidze signature knockout over Jack Hermansson. But the Joker is very elusive and makes for a boring fight. His goal is to score a couple points here and there, land a couple punches, and get out of the way. We just saw him defeat Chris Curtis on UFC London's co-main event by the narrowest unanimous decision. He didn't really do a whole lot to win that fight, but he knows how to win rounds. I can see Dolidze getting kind of sloppy in this fight if he doesn't catch him and trying to chase him. And I hope it's a better fight than I'm expecting. I hope it's not a boring fight. Brunson and Hermansson would have definitely been a boring fight. Dolidze and Hermansson, definitely more of an interesting fight. Prime subscribers to the MMA Shark will get my play, prop, and total and distance on this fight. So make sure you head over to the MMAshark.com, sign up, plays get texted to you. I've got 7 cards to cover in December. In November, I covered 11 cards. They went 11-0. It was that good of a month. My last true losing night was August 20th. So since August 20th, we have been absolutely cruising. Moving on in the main card, we've got Shui's Tai Tuivasa taking on his second biggest test of his career. His number one biggest test of his career, of course, was Cyril Gane. He lived up to that. He did well in that fight versus Cyril Gane. He had him dropped and hurt in that fight. Cyril Gane just survived and picked him apart. I'm thinking Sergey Sergey Pavlovich can do the same. He's been running through everyone. If this turns into a barroom brawl, man, the fans are going to be going nuts. It takes a lot to finish Tua. Tuivasa, not Tua. Thinking about Miami Dolphins and head concussions there. Tua's tough. Tua can take a punch, but Sergey can definitely deliver a punch. His last 4 fights: first round knockout over Derek Lewis, first round knockout over Schnell, which everyone's knocking out Schnell in the first round. First round knockout over Maurice Green. First round knockout over Marcelo Golm. He was knocked out by the Reem, Alistair Overeem in 2018. Taking on, Tai Tuivasa. Tuivasa's been on a hell of a run. Take away the Cyril Gane fight, and, he knocked out Lewis, he knocked out Sakai, he murdered Greg Hardy, he knocked out Hunsinger, he knocked out Stefan Struve. Lesser Capper will say, here's my one bet for the card. This fight's not going the distance, 100 units. And, they'd say they won 30 units. I don't play those games. I don't fall into the juice. I never give out something that I know is going to happen. But if you want a free play, that fight's not going the distance. But I would never want to risk, and that's probably going to be minus 600 because I don't see this fight going the distance. And that really is not a free play because that's way too much juice to put out. I have my play. I have my mind made up on this fight. I know who's going to win. I know who's going to win this fight on Tuesday of Fight Week. And I'll be here to tell you if I was right or wrong. My mind's not changing on that. Matheus Nicolau versus Matt Schnell in the flyweight division. I love Matt Schnell. Matt Schnell is a great fighter. He is a tough fighter. And by tough, I don't mean he's out there hurting people. I mean by tough, his defense is stellar. You got to kill this guy to put him out of the cage, to take him out of the cage. And Nicolau is kind of a boring fighter, but he knows how to win fights. He knows how to take you down and control you. Matt Schnell can snatch a limb from anywhere. Very, very wide line on this fight. Matt Schnell is plus 320. Matheus Nicolau is minus 380. We saw the Schnell fight, the last fight of the night over Suma Jurai. He had him hurt. Schnell was almost out 3 times. The ref was going in to stop it, and he just didn't give up. He got on bottom and pulled a arm triangle choke. Absolutely brutal. The fight before that with Brandon Royval, and in the first round, he dropped Royval, had him very deep into a submission in the first round. Royval overcame it and got the finish. Matheus Nicolau, he's 18-2. He's got a great win over Tim Elliott, a win over Manuel Kopp, and a win over David Dvorak, all by decisions, one being split. So Schnell's going to be looking for the finish and to survive. Nicolau's going to be looking to control the fight for 3 rounds. I just think these odds are so wide. I'm not saying to go bet Matt Schnell. I'm really not. I think it's a value. And I got to see what else happens during fight week for that one because that fight is just too close to call. Co-main event, another one with very disrespectful odds. No one's given Barberena a chance. Brian Barberena plus 420 over RDA, Rafael Dos Anjos, obviously the former champion. Dos Anjos is minus 540. He lost 3 of his last 5. Barberena won 4 of his last 5. I think that odds are what they are just because of the takedowns. Brian Barberena, Bam Bam, he's a big fan favorite. Big one-shot power, not so much combinations. But, he's coming off a knockout win over Robbie Lawler, a split decision win over Matt Brown, which, in my very humble opinion, was the 3rd largest robbery of 2022. Matt Brown definitely won that fight. And a win over Darian Weeks. He did lose a decision to Jason Witt. Jason Witt is not a very good UFC fighter. In fact, I think since he's been cut. But the only reason Jason Witt was able to beat Brian Barberena was takedowns. And the only reason Randy Brown was able to dominate was takedowns. And Vicente Luque was takedowns. Leon Edwards didn't finish him, but he took him down. Colby Covington took him down. All of his losses have come to guys that have been able to take him down. And what better fighter, what better of a matchup is this for RDA than someone like Brian Barberena that can just take down. Now, RDA is coming off a brutal left hook knockout to Fiziev, his last fight. Before that, he looked really good. He looked dominant on the feet versus Renato Moicano. Yes, Renato went up 10 pounds in weight, and it was a much tougher task on short notice for Renato Moicano. Before that, RDA beat Paul Felder when Felder retired. RDA is definitely the better fighter of the two. He's got the wrestling advantage. I just think it's a super wide line. But it could be a good fight or it could be a snoozer. If these two want to brawl, Barberena can catch him. But I just don't see that happening. But I kind of do. It's one of those things that you should really just sign up and wait for my official play on. Main event. This is a stud of a main event. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson taking on Kevin Holland. Of course, we know Kevin Holland is in the cage whenever he is called to be. His retirement lasted all but 2 days. Kevin Holland's record right now is not very good to get this fight. He's 28-3. Of course, he did step up on 6 hours' notice and accept the fight versus Khamzat Chimaev. Before that, he submitted Tim Means and knocked out Alex Oliveira. He's a very slow starter, but it is a 5-round fight. His losses have come to nothing but the best. Derek Brunson, Marvin Vittori, Kazmat, got the finish win over Tim Means and Alex Oliveira. Alex Oliveira was outstriking him in the first round, which is very significant because Wonderboy, even at 39 years old, is one of the best strikers in the division in the UFC. He doesn't get finished, although Anthony Pettis did catch him with a Superman punch back in 2019 and put his lights out. You saw his wars with Tyron Woodley. He keeps close fights. He's smart. He doesn't get into brawls. But if this does turn into a brawl, Holland has the one-punch knockout power to put his lights out. Kevin Holland right now coming in at the minus 155 favorite. Another fight that I already have my mind made up on. I just want to see how they look on the scale. I don't think the scale is going to be an issue on this. And I will say a lot of money is coming in on Kevin Holland. Wonderboy initially opened at plus 120. Now he's plus 135. So keep that in mind. And let's see where that line goes deeper in the week. I don't see any line movement affecting my play on that. So free plays. You got Kyle Daukaus to win the fight and over Eric Anders. And we've got under 2.5 rounds or fight not to go to the distance between Natan Levy and Genaro Valdez. I cannot wait. The MMA Sharks will be out in full force this Saturday night at the Amway in Orlando, Florida. It's UFC Orlando, followed by UFC 282 next weekend. So let's keep cashing tickets.